What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, Dp-Ygo commentary. Alright, so we have Chow Productions, 1388, John Jones, 1535. John Jones is one of the better players using Teller Knights on Dueling Network. So I've watched him a couple times, haven't seen him make any chronic misplays. Looks like he has a field of pretty much all the Teller Knights. This might be a job for Deltaros. I mean, usually I'm a Trevor guy, but he has carrier, so I mean, yeah, this is definitely a job for Deltaros. The only other potential play there is if you would have had Alpha Nova to just go for Castell and spend the scout, knowing that you have Alpha Nova. I mean, he could still do the same play here. It just, you know, I guess this way, actually, it's better because he doesn't have to worry about his monster getting ran over. I mean, Cleaves aren't going to attack over a 2,500 guy. That's just not going to happen. Not unless they tribute, and he doesn't have any things to tribute. I believe Chow just passed, and I was going to say, you're going to get gamed if you do that against Sir Tellers, because all it takes is an Altair next turn, and it's pretty much a wrap. Alright, so John Jones gets game one. We missed the bulk of it, but getting game one when you're playing against Cleese is huge because this is easily Sir Teller's worst matchup. And I feel like if the Clee player wins game one, as they usually should, I mean, game two, they're just kind of playing with house money, because game three, they should be able to come back and beat down the S-Knight player, because again, it's a match that's so heavily in their favor. That's why I'm playing like double honest now, just because I'm sick of losing to vanities or a skill drain. Usually you just need to maybe try and hold out for a couple of turns, but you know, if you have a bunch of warriors in your hand and you know they just don't do anything. But usually if you have like Book or Regeki, D Prison, those can buy you like maybe a turn or so until maybe you get your MST or something like that. Honest is one of those cards that it'll get you an extra turn. So, Chow Productions, who knows if he's going first or nothing. I don't understand how Soul Drain would stop Cleese, because they don't go to the graveyard. They activate in the extra deck. It would stop, wait, it's Soul Drain just monsters? Because I was going to say it stops sacrifice. I think it's just monsters. I don't know where the cards activate. I just know that Soul Drain won't stop them motherfuckers. I know that. I know that for a fact. Yeah. Soul Drain will not stop Carrier. It won't stop Helix, and those are the only two that even activate when they're tributed. So, like, I'm not going to side a card in for two cards anyway. Now, it looks like, who knows who's going to go first or second. Okay. So, it looks like Chow's going first. No shame in that. Klee's a good deck to go first with, just because the percentile of you getting Scout is like so high. If I'm the Sir Teller Knight player, I want to go second anyway, for various reasons. Number one, you're going to get Scout anyway. My mindset, and this is why I used to always want to go second with Shadows even before this format. The Clee player is always going to get Scout. Even with 5 cards, if you give them 6 cards, they're definitely going to get Scout. Hell, sometimes they'll have 2 Scouts. So if you're banking on one MST getting the job done, it's not. Now, there is times like this where they just brick with 5 cards, and then it's like fucking house money. But if I'm going second with Sir Teller Knights, I can also use Vega. You can't use Vega turn 1 with Sir Teller Knights against Cleese, especially game 1, because you don't know what you're playing against. You don't want to make the wrong XC, and you don't want to be playing against Shadows and XC anyways. If you're going second and they make the sacrifice play, then you can just say, alright, well, I'm going to make Ragnar 0. You know, you can't do that if you go first, because then they won't fucking play into Ragnarsel. They'll just do other shit. So I feel like there's no reason to go first against them in games 2 and 3. You know, if you say, well, I want to stop the scouts. Okay, well, I hope you open with like 3 MSTs then. And if they open with Storm or Night Beam or any of that, your 3 MSTs might get cracked anyway. So it looks like neither player really drew anything good. And he's going to attack. He might meet D-Prison. I wonder. He does meet D-Prison. I wonder if he has Soul Transition to counter. I mean, that'd be a great counter right here. You need to draw 2 and blow up a back row. I mean, that play could basically swing the game for him. And it doesn't. So he summons Dis, which is significantly worse. It also tells your opponent that you have nothing to protect the Dis with, basically. Well, at least as far as attacks. Yeah, so he bottomlesses, knowing that if you couldn't protect from D-Prison, you sure as fuck can't protect from bottomless. And you also have nothing to pendulum either. John Jones plays Duality, a card that I said was dead, but it wasn't. I wouldn't even look at the other cards. I just take the Deneb. I used to do that with Boojins, and people used to get mad at me. Like, I would see Yamato as my first card, and I'd be like, I don't need to see the other 2. I know I want Yamato. And it'd be like, I need to show me the other cards. Like, he didn't need to, John Jones did not need to see the other 2 cards to know he was taking Deneb. Because Deneb gets him another monster. Unless he's gonna Mind Crush him, which doesn't change anything. So he activates Skill Drain because he doesn't want to get Alpha Nova'd. And he loses out the Fairy Wind. So he takes 1,300, John Jones takes 300, and he'll at minimum take 1,800 this turn. Because he'll definitely attack with Deneb. So now he's able to resolve that Deneb. I mean, this duel should be huge advantage for John Jones because he's going to take 15 plus at least 800 if he even top decks and a scout. And right now, just if he's sitting on floodgates, they're just dead. John Jones does not have to summon to beat him. So if he's sitting on vanities, it's a dead card. He activates Storm. This will be the game breaking point right here. If he has Alpha Nova, he'll win. If not, it can get hairy because he'll get Scout. I assume he has Sacrifice Set. Okay, that should be pretty much a wrap. He had the Alpha Nova. And not only is Altair live now, but sitting on dead sacrifices is not good Yu-Gi-Oh! Even if he has vanities, he's still really in the hole. I assume he has vanities set, but this card is probably sacrifice. So he's gonna test he's gonna test to see if he has vanities. Oh no, it's MST. Maybe he doesn't have sacrifice set. Now I believe he doesn't have vanities. I believe he may have had a sacrifice set. Okay, what? So he opted to MST a random card instead? That made no sense. He opts to MST a random set instead of the Call of the Haunted. I mean, I guess he figured he was gonna get Deneb regardless, but you do realize he's gonna Trevor you now. Alright, so he goes for Una. And like, even if he Trevors a sacrifice, you're gonna take so much damage this turn. Your scout is not gonna bring you back. If John Jones plays this right, basically he'll near game him. Although technically, I guess with Cowboy he will be able to game him. I expect him to go Vega and then Una. And I think that if he didn't have, oh, okay, fair enough. I guess he just doesn't have Vega. He must have not had any other Teller Knight except Altair. Otherwise, he would have searched Vega. He would have summoned that. He would have rammed everybody, and then he would have. Actually, I think in that position, I don't even think Trevor matters. I think you just go for Cowboy. So yeah, activates Upstart. Wait, why didn't you do that? Why didn't you do that in turn 1? I mean, in main phase 1. Because what if you would have drawn the Vega? You could have essentially canceled that out. See, yeah, you misplayed, John Jones. You misplayed, buddy, because You drew Rhoda, which means that you should have activated Rhoda and then got Vega, and then you would have summoned all of them. And you would have done how many upstarts do you have? You would have done an additional 200, which means that if your opponent's life points were still so high, Trevor would have been the right play. I mean, he still has 2 monsters on board. It's cool, but they're kind of random pieces he can't do anything with. He should have upstarted in main phase 1. He would have drew Rhoda. Then he would have activated Rhoda. He would have gotten Vega. He would have summoned Vega, then Una, attacked with everybody. He would have Trevor called the Haunted back to his hand. And then he would have had a 50-50 chance on hitting Scout. And with the amount of damage that he would have done, which I wouldn't have activated the second upstart, so he would have done 1,200 more. His opponent would have been sitting at 27. He'd have been sitting on 27 and potentially a Scout, but John Jones would have been sitting on Call of the Haunted and Upstart. So he goes for Dweller and defense. Wait, I don't get that play. What I'm thinking is, if you're reading like I am, if you're reading that your opponent has sacrifice set, why not just go into Ragnar Zero? That way, if they equip the sacrifice, you just blow their monster up, and then they get Scout, and then what the fuck do they do with Scout? They have to Pendulum, and then you don't care about that. You just make Deltros and win. But you get the draw card, and you get rid of their monster, because they've basically wasted their normal summon. With Dweller, they just summon, sacrifice, and then run your shit over. Now, if I'm not mistaken, John Jones now has an all monster hand. But I don't understand why he went for Dweller. I think that he should have went for Ragnar Zero. Because he knows that his opponent, like, I don't know. Plus, he just couldn't top deck a monster. I don't understand Dweller at all, but that's just me. I don't understand why he didn't upstart first. He didn't need to use the second upstart. I'd have kept that shit in my hand. I'm not going to give you 2,000 life points. Well, I guess technically if I couldn't kill you, but my draws would have been different because I would have used Una's effect. Alright, so now he gets Scout. He'll search out Carrier, then he'll sacrifice and just attack you. And this is why you should have made Ragnar Zero. I mean, you're probably still going to win, but the play you made was dumb. That's all I'm saying. He flips over the sacrifice that you knew he had. I don't know. I feel like sometimes people on Dueling Network just don't want to. What were that? Wait. Okay, think about this. Thank you. I'm sure that Chow has a fucking brain. I mean, I'm glad he has a brain. What were the odds of John Jones? I mean, what were the odds of Chow drawing Storm, right? Okay, so if Chow draws Storm, yeah, Abyss Dweller gets rid of that, right? Okay, but if he draws any monster, his sacrifice runs over your Dweller. And now, the funny thing is, if he actually has vanities, he'll just win. That's the funny thing. Instead of having a monster that was on field bigger than any of his cleaves, if he has vanities, he'll just win. That's the incredible thing. Unless he drew MST. I guess the way Chow is talking, he doesn't have skill drain or vanities. I just don't understand what John Jones has been doing. His plays have been off the wall. Alright, so he goes Vega. I mean, it must be just obviously a dead card. I just don't understand. So what if he storms? If he storms for your Call of the Haunted and his sacrifice, he has to kill all his cards. So he'll get Scout, and he does what with Scout? Like, he can't attack over Ragnar Zero. So, what the fuck what were you afraid of? If you can't attack over Ragnar Zero, I don't care. You're only getting one monster from your Scout. Scout is great if you get to use it multiple turns or multiple times. Now in this position, I'd make Trevor. I'm not gonna lie. I'd make Trevor. Just because there's no point of me at this point. There's no point of me trying to counter your scout. Like, you have two ways to get the scout. I'm just gonna have to deal with scout. I'd rather reuse my Call of the Haunted and attack. That doesn't fall off, by the way. It just goes to your hands. Why would that fall off? They both go to your hands. Yeah, why would sacrifice fall off? It just goes to your hands. I would just attack. I'd put you at 1,000 life points, so now you can only use it once. I'd go ahead and I'd activate the effect of Trevor, because now, as long as I don't hit sacrifice, I feel good. If he hits scout or carrier, he's good, because you can't pendulum back carrier from the graveyard. Just don't hit sacrifice. All right, you're in good shape now. Now basically, Chow has to, he has to scout for a monster and then sacrifice it, and what the fuck does that do? Now, John Jones does have to go for Diamond just because he needs the attack. He doesn't technically. If Chow just gets a sacrifice monster and attacks, then all John Jones will do is just summon two monsters back and just potentially, he'll put him at a position where he'll just, I guess, cowboy him for game. But let's keep it 100. John Jones has been playing awful. We just gonna keep it 100 there. People call me out when I make mistakes, and you guys talk about how I shouldn't run 41 cards in Upstart, although 41 is my lucky number. But, yeah, I literally didn't understand half the plays he made. Like, you made Dweller just for Storm. What were the chances of him drawing Storms? Because I bet whatever the chances of him drawing Storm were, I bet you the chance of him drawing a monster were a lot higher than that. Okay, so he gets his last scout search. The problem for Chow here is he kind of has to OTK him, because John Jones doesn't have to attack to win now. He can just make Cowboy. So he's going to attack, and all he has to do is just get Altair and get some random shit. Why he didn't use Altair's effect, I'm not sure. Like, honestly, I've never had my Trevor get ran over, but does Trevor's like somehow, okay, so he is. I'm like, does Trevor somehow say that you can't activate the monster's effect? Because to me, it seems like this way you get to play around vanities. I wouldn't even commit that much to the board because of Regeki and shit, but I guess it doesn't matter if he has Call of the Haunted. Like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, he had no way of playing around it, because even if he crashed with Trevor, he could just get monsters back, and this way he can cowboy him for game, or he could attack. He can pendulum, which is fine, but this does not play around cowboy, so. I was wondering how the carrier died. I'm like, it can't die by battle. It just has to sit there. Which is also not good. So yeah, now you just make Cowboy. You see if your opponent has Bottomless or Evac. If they do, then you just summon Altair, and then you just make like Deltaros, and you just attack. There are many ways that he can win. Keep in mind, he still has Call of the Haunted, by the way. He just has that shit set. But yeah. Okay, so he flips over Vanities. That makes things a little more difficult. The fact that he had Vanity's Emptiness. That does make things a little more difficult. Now, John Jones has all the time in the world to get a card that outs that shit, because he can't play this anymore. And I'm not sure he can even risk attacking just because of D-Prison. So, he activates Set Pot of Duality. Clearly looking for Honest or Snatch Steal, if he even plays Honest. Alpha Nova looks great. And Wiretap, not so much. Why play Wiretap when you can just do the same thing and draw? Actually, not to mention, if he activates anything and it gets Alpha Nova, it goes to the graveyard and it turn off his vanities, then he'd really, really lose. So yeah, you take what's it called? Alpha Nova there. And now your opponent is in a somewhat of a stun phase, or a stunned, I guess position. Cause can you really attack? Like I wouldn't even have put my dudes in defense mode. I want you thinking I have Honest. I want you thinking that I have Honest. So I'm not going to put my dudes in defense. I'm going to leave all my dudes in attack mode. And you can contemplate if I have D-Prison or if I have Honest, because they both beat you. And I have Alpha Nova too. So not much you can do against that. So Chow just scoops it up. I guess maybe he thought that he couldn't win. What's it called? John Jones drew Dust Tornado, so he would have had a way to get rid of that. And he had Alpha Nova, and again, all you had to do is make Cowboy. Thank you guys for watching as always. Don't understand what John Jones was doing there.